Bills fans, this season has felt like one long, unpredictable ride. Every week brings something different. One moment you're watching a team that looks ready to dominate the entire league, and the next, you're left wondering how everything unraveled so fast. The loss against Miami hit harder than most because it didn't just expose weaknesses, it reminded everyone how fragile the balance of this offense really is when key players go down. Dalton Kincaid, the most consistent weapon in the passing game, missed more than half of that game with a hamstring injury, and now it sounds like he could miss more time. Before that, it was an oblique injury that already kept him off the field. When you lose someone that important, it's not just a missing body. It changes the entire rhythm of what the Bills want to do offensively. Josh Allen, as always, finds ways to keep the team competitive. The numbers might even look fine on paper, but the box score doesn't tell the full story. This offense has fell out of sync, and you can sense it when they're on the field. Some drives look smooth, others collapse under small mistakes, penalties, turnovers, missed reads, the kind of stuff that separates good teams from elite ones. And the thing is, nobody's really sure what version of the Bills they're watching week to week. Remember when they beat the Chiefs? Everyone was calling them one of the hottest teams in the league, saying they were finally putting it all together. Then a week later, they lose to Miami, and suddenly it's chaos again. It's been that kind of year. You look back at the Ravens game. For 3 quarters, they couldn't move the ball, and then they flipped a switch in the fourth. They've had these flashes of brilliance followed by stretches of pure confusion. They dropped games to the Falcons and Patriots, both matchups that should have been manageable. And in those games, the same issues popped up. Sloppy offense, costly turnovers, a defense that looked tired and vulnerable. It's not that this team isn't talented. It's that they haven't been able to find consistency. One week, they blow out the Panthers coming out of the bye, even if that was against a backup quarterback. Then they go right back and take down the Chiefs again, which made everyone think maybe, just maybe, this was the turning point. But then came the Dolphins game, and all those old problems came rushing back. Missed assignments, the run defense getting gashed, the passing game looking uncertain. It's been nearly impossible to get a real read on who the Bills truly are this season. If you're an optimistic fan, you can look at this and say, hey, they're still 6-3, and they haven't even played their best football yet. And that's true. There's still time to figure things out. But the flip side of that optimism is the reality that we've seen this story before. We've seen the mid-season slump, the flashes of hope, the strong push to finish the year, only for it to end the same way, short of where everyone wants to be. The frustration comes from that pattern. Fans aren't asking for another "we'll get hot in December" story. They want sustained dominance. They want to see this team take that next step and finally get over the hump that's been holding them back. And as more time passes without that happening, it's natural for doubts to creep in. Every new mistake feels heavier because it's not just about one game. It's about all the previous seasons that ended the same way. Around the league, plenty of people still believe in this team. Neutral fans, analysts, even other coaches look at the Bills and say, relax, they'll be fine. They see a roster full of talent, a quarterback who can do everything, and a team that's been a consistent contender. But if you're inside Bills Nation, if you've lived through these ups and downs, it's hard not to feel that anxiety every time they come out flat in a big moment. Part of the problem comes down to efficiency. This offense is built on rhythm, timing, and balance. But lately it feels like they've been working against that very idea. Too many turnovers, too many negative plays, too many moments where Josh Allen passes up an open receiver because he's hunting for a big play that just isn't there. And when that happens, the offense loses its identity. Pocket management slips, protection breaks down, and drives stall. Add in the fact that they've got role-specific receivers who aren't delivering, and it's easy to see why this unit feels stuck in neutral. Keon Coleman, for example, is a big topic of conversation right now. The Bills hoped he could bring that physical, outside presence, a guy who could go up and make tough catches like a George Pickens or a Cortland Sutton. But that's just not who he is yet. And the problem is, because of injuries and limited depth, he's being asked to play a role he's not ready for. That's not entirely on him. It's a tough spot to be in for a young receiver, but the impact is clear. The passing game loses balance. Defenses start crowding Allen's space, and everything becomes harder. The frustrating part is that the overall design of this offense isn't the issue. The Bills are trying to do what the best offenses in the league are doing. Use heavy personnel, mixed formations, create mismatches. It's the execution that's failing. When the X receiver doesn't threaten defenses, the whole system collapses inward. Allen starts forcing throws, routes don't develop as intended, and defenses stop respecting certain looks. It's a domino effect, and right now, too many of those dominoes are falling the wrong way. That's why some fans are calling for more from guys like Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore. These players have speed, quickness, and the ability to separate, things that the offense desperately needs right now. Instead, they've become afterthoughts. They're barely getting looks, even though they could open up the field and help Allen find his rhythm. Meanwhile, Coleman and Tyrell Shavers are getting heavy snaps despite not showing the consistency needed to stay on the field. That imbalance is killing the offense. And then there's Gabe Davis. He's a polarizing player. Some fans are all in, others think his inconsistency is part of the problem. But at this point, the Bills might need to lean on him more. He's had moments of real chemistry with Allen, both in the regular season and the playoffs. Everyone remembers that postseason stretch when he looked unstoppable. It might be worth revisiting that connection now, especially when the alternatives aren't getting it done. At the end of the day, it's fair to admit that some of the frustration comes from overreaction. Fans and analysts alike ride the emotional wave from week to week. One win feels like a Super Bowl statement. One loss feels like the sky is falling. But this year's team has made that roller coaster impossible to ignore. Even those who try to stay level-headed can feel the uncertainty building. The trust, the confidence, it's not as strong as it used to be. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway right now. This Bills team still has everything it needs to be great, but through 9 games, it hasn't played up to that potential for more than a few quarters at a time. The talent is there. The coaching is there. The opportunity is still there. But until they prove they can play consistently high-level football, doubts will remain. The fans are waiting. The league is watching. And it's time for Buffalo to show which version of this team is the real one. When you look beyond the offense, there are still plenty of storylines swirling around this team. One of the biggest has been the potential addition of Mecole Hardman. His name brings an interesting wrinkle to the discussion because, at first glance, he seems like a player who could bring some spark, especially in the return game. The Bills' special teams have been underwhelming this year, ranking near the bottom in punt return average and sitting somewhere in the middle of the pack on kick returns. They've been missing that explosive element, that threat who can flip field position with one play. Hardman has done that before. He's got legit speed, playoff experience, and a track record of handling both kick and punt duties. If he earns a spot on the roster, the player most at risk could be Brandon Coddington, who's technically a return specialist but has been a healthy scratch most weeks. It's tough to justify keeping a roster spot for someone who never actually takes the field. Still, the excitement around Hardman has to be tempered. His production as a receiver in the league has always been limited. He had a few solid seasons with Kansas City, topping 500 receiving yards a few times, but his role was always specific: short routes, quick screens, jet sweeps, things designed to use his speed rather than his route running. Expecting him to suddenly become a major part of Buffalo's passing offense mid-season might be unrealistic. The best-case scenario is probably that he helps out on special teams and gives the offense another gadget option when needed. But anything beyond that would be a bonus. The deeper issue behind all this is that Buffalo's offense shouldn't need to rely on mid-season pickups to find answers. They already have talent on a roster, but it hasn't been optimized. Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore, both players with proven ability to separate and create space, have been underused. When you see Coleman and Shavers getting the majority of reps despite struggling to get open, you can't help but wonder if the coaching staff is overcomplicating things. Josh Allen thrives when the game feels instinctive, when he can trust his receivers to find space and make plays after the catch. But when he's forcing throws into tight coverage or hesitating because the routes aren't developing, the offense starts to lose that natural flow. And then, of course, there's the never-ending conversation about injuries. It feels like every week, someone new pops up on the report. Soft tissue issues, practice injuries, warm-up tweaks. It's become an exhausting pattern. Christian Benford, Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, Taron Johnson, all of them have missed time this year because of practice or pre-game injuries. That's not even counting the game day hits that inevitably happen in football. It's left fans wondering if this is just bad luck or if something deeper is going on with the training and conditioning staff. The truth is, it's a complicated conversation. Everyone wants a clear answer, someone point to, but football doesn't work that way. Some injuries are avoidable. Others just happen because this sport is violent and relentless. You can question preparation and maintenance all you want, but you also have to acknowledge that these are world-class athletes pushing their bodies to the limit every week. It's not as simple as saying, fire the strength staff. There's no way to measure the injuries that didn't happen, the ones prevented by good training routines and smart recovery management. It's frustrating, but it's part of the game. Still, there's no denying that the constant rotation of players due to injuries has made it harder for this team to build rhythm. Chemistry on both sides of the ball depends on repetition, trust, and timing. When those reps are constantly being interrupted by new lineups and new substitutions, it shows. The defense has had its moments of brilliance, but it's also looked gassed at times, giving up chunk plays that feel uncharacteristic of a Sean McDermott unit. They've been missing key pieces, and while the next man up mentality sounds good in theory, there's only so much depth can do when you're replacing high-end starters. Then there's the ongoing debate about the team's training camp setup at St. John Fisher College. Most teams around the league have moved away from holding camp off-site, opting instead to stay home and work out of their own facilities. But Buffalo has kept that tradition alive, spending a few weeks each summer in Rochester. It's something that divides opinion. On one hand, it brings the team together. There's a focus that comes with being away from distractions, with the only priority being football. Players bond, rookies learn, coaches connect with the roster in a more personal way. For fans in the Rochester area, it's an incredible experience, a rare chance to see their favorite players up close and be part of that preseason energy. On the other hand, it's not easy for players with families. 2 weeks away from home can be a strain, and it's fair to acknowledge that. Still, the benefits of that team-building atmosphere seem to outweigh the negatives. Every year, the Bills talk about how much they value that time together, how it helps lay the foundation for the season ahead. It's something that speaks to the culture they're trying to maintain, a close, unified locker room built on trust and shared purpose. But even with that culture in place, there's an undeniable sense of urgency building around this team. The expectations are no longer about just being good or making the playoffs. Fans have seen that movie. What they want now is something different, the kind of consistent, dominant football that ends in a championship run, not another heartbreak. And when the same patterns keep repeating, the mid-season inconsistency, the untimely injuries, the frustrating losses that seem avoidable, that urgency turns into frustration. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. Buffalo might be about to witness one of the most electrifying shifts in its defensive identity. Word around the league is that Justin Simmons, the all-pro safety long admired for his intelligence, range, and leadership, has been announced by the Bills, and the locker room is already buzzing. Nothing official has been carved in stone yet, but the whispers have grown too loud to ignore. Simmons in royal blue? The thought alone has Bills Mafia roaring across social media and sending ripples through the AFC. For years, Simmons has been the beating heart of Denver's secondary, a quiet general orchestrating chaos from the backfield. His knack for reading quarterbacks and turning broken plays into takeaways has made him one of the most feared deep safeties in football. If the rumors prove true, Buffalo may have just pulled off the kind of defensive coup that changes everything. With Simmons anchoring the back end, the Bills' secondary could shift from solid to spectacular overnight. Some insiders claim that the move came together quietly, with both sides showing mutual respect and a shared hunger for a championship run. Simmons, known for his professionalism and composure, reportedly found Buffalo's culture gritty, relentless, and loyal, impossible to resist. The Bills, meanwhile, have been searching for a new voice in the defensive huddle, especially after recent roster shuffles and the departure of key veterans. Simmons could be exactly that presence, a stabilizer, a motivator, and, most importantly, a playmaker. Around Orchard Park, the energy is different. Teammates are said to be fired up, coaches already scheming new alignments, and fans daring to imagine what a Simmons-led secondary might look like under the bright playoff lights. If these murmurs turn into an official announcement, the Bills may have just added not only a player, but a tone setter. For now, though, it remains a swirl of rumors, tweets, and sideline smiles. Still, one thing feels certain. If Justin Simmons truly joins the Bills, the storm over Buffalo's defense is just beginning. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.